Good morning. Welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Social Media Manager for HAR. I'm joined this morning by Jeremy Conway. Jeremy, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Jeremy Conaway, and I'm the Strategic Architect for the Houston Association of Realtors and several other organizations across the country.
Yes, and we did the math this morning, and this is your fourth appearance on this program.
That's right. It's from here to CBS.
So that being said, if it's his fourth appearance, we know he's got some great information to share with us. Today we're going to be talking all about value propositions. Now, you were on a few months ago, and we teased this a little bit. We did discuss it a little bit, the idea of value propositions, but let's just remind our audience, what is a value proposition?
Well, it's the simplest statement in your life, and now it's the most important statement. A value proposition is simply your articulation to your potential customer, why pick me?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I better than 40,000 other people? What is it that I can offer that nobody else can offer?
Sure. So what would you say maybe are some of the most recognizable value propositions or famous ones that you've seen that are successful for businesses that maybe we would know?
In many cases, corporations interject their slogans with their value proposition. So everybody knows BMW is the ultimate driving machine.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that Walmart is sells for less always.
Mm-hmm.
You might know that Amazon, theirs is sell better, sell more.
Okay.
There's an Acura, it's the true definition of luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Now these are, again, the ones we just shared all share the requirement that it be clear and concise.
Sure.
They're short, they're something that hopefully creates a memory and that people will relate to.
Okay. So from what you're saying, is a value proposition, is that interchangeable with a slogan? Can they essentially be the same thing, or should they be different things?
They can be, yes.
Okay.
They're not always. And it's sometimes, and it's interesting if you go out and look at the Dodge website.
Mm-hmm.
Dodge has 5 lines of automobiles, and they have a value proposition for each one, and each one articulates just a little differently what that particular vehicle does, and some of them are even close to glib,
Mm-hmm.
but they all come down as being a value proposition. When you look at that, you go, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Okay. So does everyone need a value proposition?
No, just those people who want to succeed. Again, part of the challenge that you and I are dealing with in our respective space within the real estate industry is trying to have people understand the totality of the changes the industry is going through. And so traditionally, people didn't have one.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they have one? Oh, well, because that's my Uncle Ed or my Aunt Silly. They don't need a value proposition. I've known them since I was born. Well, that doesn't work anymore. You need to tell people now, why me?
So, from what I'm getting from what you're saying, it seems like because my next question is basically, why haven't we seen it in our industry specifically? And it kind of seems like it's because it's been assumed, right?
Yep.
That the need is assumed.
Yeah, so there's a sort of a history of value propositions. So real quick, this is 60
Sure.
seconds or less. So if you go back to when the boomers were in high school, and before that, so before 1965 or thereabouts, there was an assumption that if you were a professional, if you called yourself a professional, if you had letters after your name, there was an assumption that you were competent.
Mm-hmm.
There was an assumption that you had value.
Right.
But over the years, what has happened is, of course, in the boomers, everyone became a professional, whether it was a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, they discovered that BMWs had a Series 3 and 5, and if you wanted to get to a 5, sometimes you weren't as good as you ought to be. Anyway, so what happened is that we began to watch the deterioration of the assumption.
Okay.
And so we've now worked in the world today where there is no assumption.
Mm-hmm.
There is no assumption that because you call yourself a professional that you're competent, that you add value. In fact, to be really honest with you, probably it's an anti-assumption.
Okay.
Because probably in more cases, people are hiding behind their professionalism shield and say, I'm a realtor, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, you can trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And the consumer today goes, no, I don't think so.
Right.
So that's why you have to make the statement.
Okay. So do brokers need them? Do agents need them, or both?
Well, virtually everyone who interacts with consumers or customers needs
Okay.
one. So yes, there should be a brokerage,
Uh-huh.
and a brokerage and an agent.
What about a team?
Well, a team would have one too. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Okay. Now, so let's say that I'm the owner of a brokerage and I'm creating my value proposition and I'm encouraging my agents to create a value proposition. Should theirs be the same as mine in some way?
No, but they shouldn't be inconsistent.
Okay.
I mean, there should be some similarities, but they don't have to be recognizable at a distance. But where you give, anytime you are dealing with the same customer and you give varying value propositions, you confuse customers.
Sure.
And in today's world, confused customers tend to just turn off. They're not gonna spend any time figuring out whether yours is right or theirs is right. They go somewhere else.
Okay. Right, but I mean, obviously, if an agent's creating one, they need to be aware of the brokerage value proposition, right? Because what if
Yeah.
they conflict with one another,
Well,
right?
also, you ought to make sure that both the agent and the brokers have a value proposition. The decision today not to have a value proposition is a pretty significant decision. I mean, it's pretty much like not having air conditioning. I mean, you can not have it, but there are consequences to the
But you're
decision.
going to suffer.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Especially in the middle of June, right?
Yes, yes.
In Houston. Okay, so where does the value proposition fall into our marketing plan, or what we're doing with everything else in relation to marketing?
A lot of this will depend on what sort of professional assistance you have in your marketing program. But when you look at the people who are really good, okay, on every Walmart truck in the country, all 1,650 of the little devils floating around, it says, selling for less, always.
Always, right.
Okay, they're not different, they're always the same, it's always there. So hypothetically, if you understand the value of a value proposition, it's important, it's everywhere. I mean, if it's on your card, it's on your ads, it's wherever it can be.
So really, I mean, your value proposition could start your entire marketing campaign.
Well, it's yes.
If you start with the value proposition,
yes,
all of your marketing kind of branches from there in some way, or
yeah.
it should.
Well, it should, yeah,
Right.
and that's why it's important to give it a little bit of thought. But again, what we'll talk about later is that don't get hung up on it.
Okay.
Get something, get it out there, and if you don't like it, you can change it. It's not written in stone.
Right, okay. So just taking a quick look. I don't see any questions coming in yet from our members.
No questions?
Well, we haven't given them a chance to yet.
Oh.
So if you have any questions for Jeremy about value propositions, or the need for one, how you should create one, I do have more questions for him that I'm going to ask, but please ask those questions in the comments and we'll get to them in just a bit. So I kind of want to give our members almost a guideline for value propositions. What are attributes of a value proposition? What should we see in every value proposition that's created?
Okay, well, the number one, and interesting enough, the hardest, because some people want to have an 18-page value proposition,
Right.
and indeed, there are companies that have that, but the first thing it needs to be is clear and concise. So, I mean, if you think about, the ultimate driving machine, that's it. It's that many words, and it gets the message across. So
Right.
that's the first thing. The second thing, it needs to be memorable. It needs to leave an impression, because when people look at it, they'll have a quick second to look at it. You want them to remember it, and you want them to remember what it means, not just what you used. It should be intuitively obvious. The ultimate driving machine, it's obviously a car. It's not a turtle. It's not a parakeet. And so again, in real estate, your value proposition should be aimed at what it is that you want to do. In real estate functions, there's lots of different functions.
Right.
So you might not want to say, we do the best darn deed that was ever done or whatever. So you want to articulate the value proposition with respect to what you want to be known for.
Okay.
Within that wide range of stuff that you do. You can't do them all.
All right.
So it's it needs to also be scalable to the consumer's immediate need, i.e. I'm looking for a new home, I want to sell my home, but also I'm interested in having a lifestyle coach or someone who can help me through. So I have a longer term issue, and is this somebody I'd want to use for a longer term? That's another thing. It also must somehow touch on the time, energy, or economic value of the service. So again, one or two words or one word can do this, but we need to know it's costing money. Where are you in that world? So that, and are you readily available? Is your time available? So those are just other things that you might want to slip in there.
So it's almost things that you're saving the consumer, either time, energy,
Yep.
or money.
Yep.
Right. Okay. We do have a question.
Time, effort, or money.
Time,
actually.
effort.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Or money. So Lori was asking, should you have different value propositions based on the client? So let's just say my value proposition was that we're going to be selling your home quickly, right? Well, what if I'm working with a buyer? Does my value proposition change?
Yes, so let's go back and again, what we we're just talking about, and that is, just like Dodge has different value propositions for different vehicles, agents and brokers could have different value propositions for different customer groups.
Okay.
The obvious one is buyer, seller, renter.
Sure.
Okay, they're clear. You can have a different one for each of those.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll know you'll know when your value proposition doesn't really cover, and they're cheap. And you did it. You didn't have to go out. It's not like you had to go buy another one for $5,000.
Right.
So you could have several, but you
Okay.
got to be careful that they ought to relate to one another.
Right.
So you don't sound like you're another person.
All right. Dee is asking, what if your value proposition is similar to another agent or broker?
I suspect they all are going to be similar.
Okay.
I mean, if all 40,000 broker agents in our specific area had a value proposition, there'd be some huge similarities. But
Right.
therein lies this word versus this word.
Mm-hmm.
Therein lies what makes a value proposition special or not special.
Okay.
But so it'll boil down to one or two words, and that's the challenge.
Okay. So the first thing you mentioned about a value proposition is it needs to be clear and concise. How many words?
Well, it's like, remember when we were in school and say to the teacher, how many pages does my book report have to be? The answer is there is no answer.
Okay.
I mean, at some point, if you're talking about a 4-page thing, nobody's going to read it, so it's not going to be clear and concise, and it's not. So, if you're talking about 5 or 6 words, it doesn't. It's not a good idea to start with that idea. You'll know if it's too long because it won't be memorable. It won't be something that someone could see on a truck driving by at 60 miles an hour and remember and be memorable.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll. It's harder to define than to instinctively know that it's too long.
Okay.
So there are no words to describe how long. Just again, think about it. Consumers got a second to look at it. You want them to remember you, what you're all about, and that you ought to be in their life.
Okay. So really, no more than a sentence.
Oh, yeah, that'd be pretty. Yeah, yes.
And should it even be a sentence or
Doesn't
or
have
a
to
question?
be. Doesn't
Can it
have
just
to be.
A phrase?
It can be a phrase. Yeah, I mean that's the wonderful thing. It's it's communicating the most important message of your life.
Okay.
So there are very few grammatical rules, or spelling always is good to spell it right.
Right. Can you repeat for us? I know we talked about this earlier on, but can you repeat for us some of the most popular ones now that we've kind of defined it a little more? I want to remind our members just some of the more popular ones. You mentioned a few
Okay.
off there.
Well, here's Apple. Okay.
Okay.
Apple is the experience is the product.
Okay.
Okay, so that covered what they wanted. Uber, the smartest way to get around.
Right.
That's kind of cool. Slack, which is a software product. Be more productive at work with less effort.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an accounting program that says bookkeeping without the hassle.
Okay.
So that none of those are complete sentences, and most of those are 5 to 6 or 7 words.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy Egg is website behavior tracking at an unbeatable price. Now that's a little longer, but unbeatable price is a very, very memorable sort of thing.
Right.
And website behavior tracking is equally, so they got 2 major thoughts in there which come together pretty well.
Right. So, and again, it touches on the time, the effort, or the cost, right?
It's a lesson that we're learning now in sort of advanced marketing, is that there are time, effort, and expense are the 3 things that consumers are desperately trying to save right now.
Mm-hmm.
So to the extent that you can communicate, and that doesn't mean cheap, because we know people are willing to pay more money if they can save effort and
Right.
get the better result.
Right.
That's clear. So it's not about being cheap. It's not necessarily about being fast,
Mm-hmm.
but it's probably important to be expedient and to be effective and appropriate in the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of different combinations.
Okay.
The message here I want to keep giving is just have a value proposition and start using it, and if you don't like it down the road, change it.
Right.
But not having a value proposition delivers a very clear message to the consumer, and that is, you should love me because I'm related to you, I'm your friend, I'm in your side of town. All the things that you think people think are important
Mm-hmm.
don't matter for value proposition.
Okay. Lori had asked for some examples. We just gave some, so hopefully that helps. Are there any more examples that you would recommend people look at?
You know, this morning I got up early, went out, and because I'd done this before, and tried to find some value propositions in American real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Not there.
Okay.
I mean, again, no, because if in an industry, you know, if you've been in this industry 20 or 30 years, you're convinced that you're the person.
You're working on the assumption.
I don't need to tell you how good I am. I'm good. I'm here.
Sure.
And that worked for a long time. Not saying that was wrong. It worked for a long time. It doesn't work anymore.
Okay. So Melissa was saying, is it so? And we touched on this, but if you could remind us, she said it's the same as your slogan, right?
Well, it can be and generally is. Yeah,
Okay.
except if it gets too long. But,
Right.
You know, if it's
It shouldn't be too
yeah,
long.
it shouldn't be too long.
Okay. That looks like all the questions I see at the
And
moment.
again,
If you have any, hold on a second. If you have any other questions for Jeremy, go ahead and type them in before we lose him. I know he has a very busy day ahead
Oh,
of him.
yes, really. So again, the other thing here is that you're trying to the length of this thing.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you're going to have it on a pen. You're going to have it on a shirt. You're going to have it on the side of your car, whatever it is. So it really, you really want to communicate a message. It's not, once you sit down and start playing with the words, it's actually kind of fun.
Right.
So cook up, buy some pizza, have your friends come over, and sit down and let's do a value proposition, because it really is just a matter of coming up with the right set of words.
Sure.
But when it gets painful, stop. It should not be painful, because when you're done, you want to go, oh, that's really neat. I like that.
Right.
I like that about me.
So one thing I noticed in the examples you gave, it didn't talk about the competition. For example, Amazon, sell better, sell more.
Mm-hmm.
It's not mentioning the competition.
Well, the term better seems to
better,
suggest,
yeah. Or Uber, the smartest way to get around.
Yeah. Well, again, you want to define yourself in the context of yourself, not someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say we're better than those other guys, then you really are telling people, and I'm also mortifyingly insecure. In other words, I mean, you want to be proud of who you are and what you are, and you want to articulate that, and forget the other folks. It's not about other folks. It's why to pick you. Why it isn't why they shouldn't pick someone else. It's why they should pick you.
Okay, very good. Is it really going to help us or just make us feel good? We don't badmouth our competitors, right?
Is that a question?
That's a question. Is it going to help us or just make us feel better?
Well, of course it's
basically?
all right. I'm not going to ask you to just believe because Jeremy said that. Just take a hike, take a drive for 20 miles. Look what people put on their signs and on their vehicles and on their. I mean, the experts are saying this is a critical piece.
Mm-hmm.
This is not to make you feel good. It's to make consumers feel good about picking you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't care enough to deliver the very best, then what are they to think? I mean,
Right.
This is how you can communicate that to them.
Okay, let's see.
But I think it's critical. In fact, in our program with this year's chair, this is something that we actually have a whole objective on value propositions.
Okay.
And we're working on the association's value proposition, and just everyone needs to really be focused on this, because there's a lot more competition today, and the competition is confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this better than this? Well, if you're not out telling somebody why you're better than, why this is a bit better system, then why should people think that you are than it is?
Yeah. And I think, like you said, with the signs and billboards, and you're going to start having, those assumed clients, friends, family members asking to explain the value. What is your value over what
And
the other stuff that I'm
you
seeing?
really want people to sing your song. I mean, what's interesting about this, okay, so if you sit down today and go through all of the information about Houston area agents and brokers, you say, well, none of these people have one. Well, that's like, whoa, you mean if I had a really good one, this is a huge competitive advantage. It really is.
Yeah.
And now the fact that other people have decided they don't want to have one, or that my name's been good enough for 40 years, well, okay.
Yeah.
But that's not what the research suggests. This is not we're not saying you do this because you're a thoroughly modern Millie. We're saying the research is pretty clear that this is what people are looking for.
Okay, very good. So, any final words of advice for our members when they create their value propositions?
Well, just, again, I hate to leave people with a guilt trip. Okay, but let me.
Okay.
If you don't have one, you're just not there. I mean, I hate people say, well, you don't get it. All right, let's say that. If you don't have a value proposition, you're not getting the contemporary real estate industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like we're saying go out and spend a bunch of money. We're saying get together with a bunch of your friends this weekend and come up with one,
Mm-hmm.
work with it, and have it, and believe it. Be what your value proposition is. But it's absolutely necessary.
Okay.
So,
Well, Jeremy, as always, this has been great. Thank
Well,
you so much.
it's a joy to be here, and thank you all for joining us on Monday mornings. It's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, as always, this video will live on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. So if you felt this was valuable, share it with your audience. If you're a broker, team leader, anything like that, I think your agents would benefit from seeing this, correct?
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully.
More importantly, they'll benefit by doing it.
Yes. So that's it for today's Member Focus Monday. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Monday at 9 a.m. Bye-bye.